An Israeli woman has been sitting in a Turkish jail for 10 days now after being arrested in the heart of Istanbul, accused not of violence, but of offending the Turkish flag, the president, Erdogan, and even Palestine. She was reportedly handcuffed by police in Taksim Square, which is one of the city's most symbolic public spaces, and has now been held for almost 2 weeks. Images circulating online, you can see them right here, appear to show her in custody. Israel's foreign ministry says it is aware of the case and is handling it, but diplomatically, this is landing at a very sensitive moment. Relations between Israel and Turkey are already deeply strained, with Erdogan openly hostile toward Israel, public support for Hamas figures visible on the streets, and anti-Semitic messaging increasingly normalized. So, is this an isolated incident, or is it a warning sign for Israelis traveling abroad? And to break this down, we are joined by Dr. Eytan Cohen Yanarocak, a Turkey expert at the Moshe Dayan Center at Tel Aviv University. All right. You know, I want to talk about this specific arrest before we look at the wider picture here. Is this more about Turkey's political climate right now under Erdogan? What can we expect in terms of how Turkey is going to handle this case?
Well, first of all, I would like to emphasize that there is a very important friction between Israel and Turkey.
Right.
And this case should not be referred as an ordinary one. Last January, we all witnessed that many Turkish activists joined the so-called Sumud flotilla, and they came here in an unlawful manner to Israel, and within days they were extradited. Even if in the Israeli eyes what they did was something not acceptable, again, I'm emphasizing and highlighting, they were extraditing within days. And now what we are seeing here, this Israeli citizen is still in the custody, and she's still in the Turkish cell, and she's waiting for to be released.
Do we have any more information about what she potentially did? Obviously, Turkey has long been a very popular travel destination for Israelis.
Yeah.
So this is particularly alarming for Israelis.
This is alarming, and the problem is this act of arresting her is backed by the Turkish Penal Code. This is the first issue. And this is, unfortunately, is very frequent in Turkey. Unfortunately, many people, tens of thousands of people, are finding themselves in the jail because of the same accusation. So it is very easy to put a person into jail with this accusation. And besides that, it is also not limited with the Turkish citizens. More than 200 foreigners are also accused because of the same accusation. And unfortunately, 9 of them were sent to jail. So this is a pretty serious accusation. And offending president, of course, many people are doing this in Turkey. And they are, as I said, they find themselves in a very problematic situation. But in my opinion, if the reports are true, the offense against the Turkish flag is a very serious accusation, and I really hope that this will not.
When you say serious accusation, what does that mean in terms of the type of, long-term sentencing that this woman could face?
And yes, and the second thing is it would be harder to close the file because it is a kind of a national sacred concept. But I also would like to make another important. Comment here regarding the so-called the state of Palestine, that we already know these accusations, the Turkish flag, the offense against the Turkish president. We know them by book, but this accusation, offending the state of Palestine, for the first time I hear that for such an allegation people are facing a prison sentence. So, unfortunately, this is another deterioration in the relations. And I know that I keep saying it. This is another law. This is another law. But believe me, yes, this is another law.
Yeah.
In 2021, we witnessed 2 Israelis, the Oknin couple. They were then arrested. And after the Israeli Foreign Minister and the Israeli Mossad intervened in that case, we saw the end. And luckily, that time, that particular case was turned into a diplomatic opportunity, and the 2 countries normalize their relationship.
Right.
But unfortunately now
it's a different political
climate. The Turks are delegitimizing the Israeli government and, of course, the prime minister.
So that brings me to my final question.
Yeah.
You know, what leverage does Israel actually have at this point, given how far relations with Ankara have deteriorated? And could we see the United States getting involved in any way, given the fact that there is interest in somehow convincing Israel to allow Turkish forces, for example, to join the stabilization force in the Gaza Strip?
No. These are like the Jewish, Jewish kitchen laws. This is something dairy and this is meat. Okay, we are not mixing them. The situation of the Israeli citizen is something very different and cannot be related with the Turkish boots on the ground in Gaza. This is something, national security, and this is something, it's a local thing that needs to be solved immediately for the sake of people-to-people relations. Otherwise, it would create grave consequences here.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank you so much for joining us. I think we're going to have to wait and see how this one plays out.